I came to fix the landlady's AC, but the moment I walked into her living room, the air shifted. It was heavy with an unsettling tension, a weight that hung between us like the dull hum of the machine that had brought me here. The aroma of cold perfume mixed with the rich scent of freshly brewed coffee, creating an intoxicating atmosphere that made me acutely aware of every detail. The way her dark hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, the way her piercing green eyes fixed on me from the couch, legs crossed, the light reflecting off the polished wood of the coffee table. "Funny," she said, her voice smooth like silk. "It worked this morning." There was a challenge in her tone, an unspoken question that lingered in the air, unresolved and taunting. I was Jack Thompson, 33 years old, a handyman by trade, and I had never felt more exposed than I did in that moment. My pulse quickened, a mixture of curiosity and fear fluttering in my chest. I had come for a simple job, but the way she was looking at me made the air feel thick and electric. Her name was Laura, my landlady, and I couldn't help but feel an undeniable pull toward her. She was in her late 40s, a single mother who'd worked hard to keep her house afloat after a bitter divorce. Her demeanor was both inviting and intimidating, a blend of warmth and strength that radiated from her very being. The light from the window caught the edges of her features, casting soft shadows that danced across her face as she bit the end of her pen, her gaze never leaving me. "Could you check it anyway?" she asked, her voice softening, though the challenge in her eyes remained, daring me to cross an invisible line. I swallowed hard, torn between the urge to step back and the inexplicable desire to lean in closer. "Sure, no problem," I replied, forcing a nonchalant tone as I tried to shake off the weight of the moment. I knelt under the AC unit, the cool air from the vents brushing against my skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of her presence just a few feet away. As I worked, I could feel her presence behind me, a palpable energy that made the hairs on my neck stand up. I concentrated on the task at hand, focusing on the familiar mechanics of the unit, but it was impossible to ignore the fact that she was watching me. Arms folded, her body language a mix of authority and something else, something dangerously inviting. The AC hummed normally, a steady rhythm that contrasted sharply with the chaotic thoughts racing through my mind. I could sense her anticipation, the way her breath seemed to hitch slightly as I adjusted the unit. "It's working fine," I finally said, straightening up and wiping my hands on my jeans, trying to ignore the way my heart thudded in my chest. She smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that felt like a secret shared between us. It was clear this was never really about the AC. The warmth of her gaze lingered, and for a brief moment, I felt the world around us fade away, leaving just the two of us suspended in a moment that felt both electric and charged with unacknowledged desire. "Are you sure?" she asked, tilting her head slightly as if weighing my words. "I just thought it seemed a little off." I chuckled nervously, the sound escaping my lips before I could stop it. "I swear it's fine, but if it gives you trouble again, just call me." "Always the diligent handyman," she mused, her voice low and teasing. "I appreciate that." I could feel the gravity of the moment shift, the air crackling with unspoken words. "It's just my job," I replied, attempting to deflect the brewing tension, my voice coming out a little too high-pitched for my liking. "Is that all it is?" she asked, her eyes narrowing slightly as she took a step closer, her presence overwhelming. My breath caught in my throat. "I mean, yeah, mostly." "Mostly?" she echoed, her lips curving in a way that made my pulse quicken. I could feel the heat radiating from her body, the distance between us shrinking with each passing second. The last thing I wanted was to cross a line I couldn't uncross, yet the way she looked at me made it hard to think straight. Just then, the sound of laughter and the distant clatter of children playing outside broke the fragile tension, pulling me back to reality. I glanced out the window, where I could see kids riding bikes and playing tag in the fading light. The suburban neighborhood felt so normal, so mundane, yet here we were, teetering on the edge of something much more complicated. Do you have kids? I asked, trying to divert the conversation, feeling the weight of her gaze press against my back. She shook her head, a shadow of sadness flitting across her features. No, just me and my cat. Just you? I asked, a hint of surprise slipping through my voice. She nodded, her smile fading slightly. It's been a journey. Sometimes I miss the chaos of a full house. You know? I could see it in her eyes, the flicker of loneliness that came with the admission. The air shifted again, heavy with vulnerability. I wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap between us, but the fear of crossing that line held me back. Yeah, I get it, I said, my voice softer now. Life can be quiet sometimes. She nodded, her gaze holding mine for a moment longer than necessary, and I felt the tension between us deepen. A fragile connection born out of shared understanding and unspoken longing. Do you ever just want to escape? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sometimes, I admitted, feeling the truth of that statement resonate deep within me. But I guess we all have our responsibilities. She tilted her head, studying me with an intensity that made my heart race. What if, just for a moment, we didn't think about responsibilities? The challenge hung in the air, heavy and intoxicating. I could feel the weight of her words settling over us, a dare that made my pulse quicken. A part of me wanted to take that leap, to break free from the constraints of our lives, but the fear of what that could mean kept me rooted in place. Laura, my voice trailed off, the words stuck in my throat like a lump of ice. She stepped closer, the distance between us almost non-existent now. Jack, I'm not trying to complicate things. Before she could finish, the sound of her phone ringing on the coffee table broke the moment. We both jumped, the spell shattered. I took a step back, the reality of our situation crashing down around us like a wave. Excuse me, she said, her tone shifting back to practicality as she reached for her phone. As she answered, I turned away, my heart still racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between us, that the delicate balance we danced around had shifted irrevocably. I busied myself with the tools I'd brought, pretending to be engrossed in fixing the AC, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying the moments we'd shared. When she hung up, I turned to face her again. Her expression was different now, a mix of frustration and something else I couldn't quite place. Sorry about that, she said, running a hand through her hair, her demeanor suddenly guarded again. Just the kids' school calling about a meeting. No problem, I replied, forcing a smile even as I felt the tension dissolve. Are you sure the AC is really okay? She asked again, her eyes searching mine, as if trying to find the answer somewhere within me. It's fine, I promise, I said, my voice steady. But if anything changes, just let me know. Of course, she replied, her smile returning, though it felt more reserved this time. Thanks for coming by, Jack. I appreciate it. I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment slip away, leaving behind an awkward silence that felt heavier than before. No problem, just doing my job. As I gathered my tools and made my way toward the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was leaving something unfinished behind. The air in the room felt thick with unspoken words, and I hesitated at the threshold, glancing back at her. Laura, I started, the name slipping out before I could think better of it. She looked up, her expression a mixture of curiosity and caution. Yeah, I don't know what that was back there, but Jack, she interrupted gently, but there was a firmness in her tone. Let's not complicate things. It felt like a line drawn in the sand, a boundary set to keep us safe from the chaos of our own desires. I nodded slowly, understanding her need for distance, even if it made my heart ache. Right? Of course, I said, forcing a smile as I stepped outside, the cool evening air hitting my face like a splash of water. As I made my way to my car, the weight of the moment lingered like a ghost in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that we had crossed a line, even if we hadn't physically touched. We were two souls skirting around the edges of something profound, something that could change everything if we let it. I slid into my car, the engine roaring to life beneath me, but as I drove away, I couldn't help but glance in the rearview mirror at her house, the light in the living room glowing warmly against the encroaching darkness. Something had shifted, but what that meant for us remained uncertain. As I navigated through the quiet suburban streets, I felt an ache in my chest, a longing for something more, something real, even as the fear of what that could mean kept me tethered to the safety of my own world. But deep down, I knew that this wasn't the end. It was a beginning of sorts, an unspoken agreement to tread carefully, to explore the fragile threads connecting us without fully unraveling the fabric of our lives. And in that uncertainty, there was a glimmer of hope, a promise of something that could bloom if we dared to reach for it, no matter how complicated it might become. As the days passed, I found myself replaying the encounter with Laura in my mind, analyzing every nuance, every glance. I had never been one to dwell on romantic possibilities, but there was something about her that haunted me. The way she held herself, a mix of strength and vulnerability, drew me in like a moth to a flame. I tried to focus on my work, filling my days with odd jobs and repairs, but my thoughts drifted back to her house more often than I cared to admit. The AC unit was fixed, yet I felt the need to return. Perhaps it was the lingering tension, or the unspoken words that hung in the air, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to see her again. A week later, I found myself driving back to her house under the pretense of checking in. I told myself it was just a friendly visit, a way to keep the lines of communication open between landlady and tenant. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. As I parked in front of her home, I felt the familiar flutter of nerves in my stomach. I walked up to the door and knocked, my heart racing. Moments later, she opened it, and the world around me faded away. Laura stood there, her hair cascading around her shoulders, wearing a soft, fitted sweater that accentuated her curves. The warmth of her smile sent a rush of heat through me. "Jack," she said, surprise coloring her tone. "What a nice surprise." "Hi, Laura. I just thought I'd check in, see how the AC is holding up," I replied, mentally kicking myself for falling back on such a cliché excuse. She stepped aside, gesturing for me to enter. "Please come in. I'd love a little company." As I crossed the threshold, the familiar scents enveloped me again, the aroma of coffee and something sweet baking in the oven. The living room was just as I remembered, filled with cozy furniture and eclectic decorations that spoke to her personality. It felt like stepping into a warm embrace, and I couldn't help but smile. "Can I get you a cup of coffee?" she asked, her back turned to me as she moved toward the kitchen. "Sure, that would be great," I said, trying to sound casual while my heart raced. As she poured the coffee, I took a moment to appreciate the way the sunlight streamed through the window, casting a golden glow on her hair. She was utterly captivating in her element, and I felt a tug of longing deep within me. "So, how has your week been?" she asked, turning to face me, holding 2 steaming mugs in her hands. "It's been busy," I replied, accepting the coffee with a slight smile. "Lots of repairs, nothing too exciting." She took a sip of her coffee, her gaze steady on me. "I can imagine. It must be nice to have a job that keeps you moving, though. I hate being cooped up in the house all day." I nodded, taking a sip of the rich brew. "Yeah, I guess I like the variety. Keeps things interesting. Do you ever get tired of it?" she asked, her tone shifting slightly. "I mean, the same routines day in and day out?" I paused, considering her question. "Sometimes. I think everyone does. But I like the satisfaction of fixing things, of making something better." Her eyes sparkled with understanding. "I get that. There's a sense of accomplishment in seeing progress, isn't there?" "Exactly," I said, feeling a connection growing between us. But I also think it's important to let ourselves break free from those routines every once in a while. She leaned in closer, her expression curious. What do you mean? I felt a rush of courage surge through me. I mean, sometimes we get so caught up in our responsibilities that we forget to enjoy life. We forget to take risks, to explore what's really out there. Her gaze held mine, and for a moment, the air felt charged again, just like it had the last time we were together. You're right, she said softly. It's easy to forget that. I took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Maybe we should remind each other, you know? Push each other to take those risks. The challenge hung in the air again, and I could see the flicker of something in her eyes, a mix of intrigue and apprehension. And how do you propose we do that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I leaned in slightly, feeling a surge of determination. I don't know. Maybe we could start with a coffee date? Just two people taking a break from their routines. A smile broke across her face, lighting up her features. A coffee date, huh? That does sound tempting. Just a casual one, I added quickly, feeling the need to temper the moment. No pressure. Casual sounds good, she replied, her tone playful. Let's see where it goes. As we stood there, the tension shifted, morphing into something lighter, more playful. We spent the next hour talking and laughing, sharing stories about our lives, our struggles, and our dreams. I felt the walls I had built around myself begin to crumble, and in their place, a sense of possibility bloomed. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the room, I couldn't help but feel that this was a turning point for us. We were no longer just landlady and handyman. We were two people daring to explore a connection that had been simmering beneath the surface. When it was time to leave, I felt a pang of reluctance. I should get going, I said, glancing at my watch. But I really enjoyed this. Me too, Jack, she replied, her expression sincere. Thank you for coming over. As I stepped outside, I glanced back at her, the light from the living room spilling out into the evening. So, coffee date soon? I asked, a hopeful smile on my face. Definitely, she replied, a spark in her eyes that made my heart race. I drove home that night with a sense of exhilaration coursing through me. The weight of uncertainty was still there, but it felt lighter now, more manageable. I had taken a step into the unknown, and it felt thrilling. Over the next few weeks, our coffee dates turned into something more. We explored local parks, visited art galleries, and even shared quiet evenings on her porch, wrapped in blankets as we watched the stars twinkle above us. With each encounter, the connection between us deepened, and I found myself falling for her in ways I hadn't expected. Laura was vibrant and full of life, her laughter infectious, a balm for my weary soul. She shared stories of her past, her struggles as a single mother, and her hopes for the future. I found myself revealing parts of my own life too, the challenges I faced as a handyman, the dreams I had of starting my own business, and the longing for something more meaningful. But amidst the blossoming romance, I couldn't shake the nagging doubt that lingered in the back of my mind. I was her tenant. She was my landlady. What if this didn't work out? What if the complications of our lives turned this beautiful connection into a mess? One evening, as we sat on her porch, sipping wine and watching the sunset, I decided to voice my concerns. Laura, I started, my heart racing. I really enjoy spending time with you, but I can't help but think about the implications of this. I mean, you're my landlady. She turned to me, her expression serious. Jack, I understand your concerns, but we can't let the fear of complications hold us back from exploring something beautiful. I know, I replied, feeling the weight of her words. But what if it doesn't work out? What if it complicates things? She took a deep breath, her gaze steady. Life is complicated, Jack. Relationships are complicated. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't take the chance. We owe it to ourselves to see where this goes. Her conviction was palpable, and I felt my resolve begin to waver. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps the potential for something beautiful outweighed the fear of what could go wrong. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I made a decision. "You're right," I said finally. "Let's see where this leads us." With those words, a new chapter began. We embraced the uncertainty, allowing ourselves to explore the depths of our connection without fear. Each day that passed felt like a new adventure, a step into the unknown that we both embraced with open hearts. As summer turned to fall, our bond grew stronger. We navigated the complexities of our lives together, learning to communicate openly and honestly. I found myself not just drawn to her physically, but emotionally and intellectually as well. She challenged me in ways I hadn't anticipated, pushing me to grow and to embrace my own dreams. But with every new level of intimacy came the weight of reality. There were moments of doubt, times when I questioned whether we were making the right choices. Laura faced her own struggles, the shadows of her past creeping in at times, reminding her of the pain she had endured. Yet amidst the challenges, we found solace in each other. We became each other's refuge, a safe space for vulnerability and growth. I learned to appreciate the quiet moments, the simple joys of being together, whether we were working on a project in her garden or cuddled up on the couch watching movies. As the leaves began to change, painting the world in vibrant shades of red and gold, I felt a sense of certainty settling within me. This was more than just a romantic fling. It was a partnership built on trust, understanding, and a shared desire for something deeper. One crisp autumn evening, as we sat by a roaring fire in her backyard, I took her hand in mine, feeling the warmth of her skin against my own. "Laura," I said, my voice steady, "I want you to know that I'm all in. I want to explore this with you, wherever it may lead." She looked at me, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "Jack, I feel the same way. I never expected to find this connection with you, but it feels right." And in that moment, surrounded by the crackling fire and the cool night air, I knew that we were embarking on a journey that would change both of our lives. The complexities of our pasts would always be there, but together, we were building a future filled with hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings. As the seasons changed, so did we. We faced challenges and celebrated victories, navigating the ups and downs of life together. The weight of our pasts began to lift, replaced by the joy of building something beautiful side by side. With every passing day, I felt more certain that we were meant to find each other. The AC unit had brought me to her door, but it was our hearts that had led us into each other's lives. And as we continued to explore the depths of our connection, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, hand in hand, ready to embrace the beauty of life's uncertainties.